Hello everyone, welcome to my chess channel. We are covering the Chess Olympiad which is going on at Chennai. Today was the first day. It was a great start for all the Indian teams. All the Indian teams won with 4-0. So it was an excellent result. Our team A was paired against the team Zimbabwe, and as I said, we won on all the four boards. The result was expected as Zimbabwe players were quite lower rated, but they did fought stubbornly. We are not going to check all the games, but we'll see the main game of our captain Vidit Gujarathi against Makoto Rodwell. So let's start. So game started with knight f3, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6 and d4. So after d4 the game has transposed into the king's Indian defense. Castle, bishop e2, e5, castle, knight c6. This is theory, d5, knight e7, and Vidit chose the bayonet attack against the king's Indian defense. So it is quite aggressive approach. a5, this is the typical response to it, and white takes on a5, rook into a5 and plays a4. Now white's main idea is to push that rook back with moves like knight d2 and knight b3 or bishop a3 to bishop b4. This is like typical plan for white, and then push the a4 pawn. Okay, so black plays knight d7. Of course, the idea is to reroute the knight onto the better square, also to control the c5 square, which is very crucial in this opening. At the same time, it clears the way for the f pawn. Knight d2, knight c5, and white plays knight b3. So exchanges happen here, queen into b3 and black plays f5. In the game, Vidit chose f3, which is quite natural, but he had a good chance to get a clear advantage. But of course the idea suggested here is very difficult to find, and the idea was to first play the move c5, giving a pawn free. Now of course black cannot take back with the d pawn, as after d6 check white is winning the knight. So rook into c5 is the likely continuation, and the main idea behind this whole pawn sacrifice is to play the move a5, and that cuts off the rook's access to all the safe squares, and the next move is bishop e3 for white, and the rook is getting trapped. So of course this is a little difficult to see in advance, and white here has a big advantage. Okay, but in the game f3 happened, black played king h8, and now c5 is of course not possible. So bishop a3, c5 from black, with it took on c6, knight into c6. Now the game is revolving around the dark squares light square combination in the center. So for black, he is trying to create a good control over the dark squares, and for white it's light squares. So now the threat is to play knight d4, and black will take the light square bishop. Now even though our light square bishop looks like bad piece, but actually it is holding everything together. So we don't want to lose that light square bishop. So that's why Vidit played bishop d3. Here comes bishop h6. This is quite a nice idea by opponent. He's trying to activate his dark square bishop, which was blocked by his own pawn. So after bishop h6, the idea is to reroute the bishop to more active square. This is really good positional chess by his opponent. King h1, prophylaxis against the check. There comes bishop e3, knight b5 and bishop c5. So knight b5 attacked the d6 pawn 2 times, and black played bishop c5 supporting it. Rook a d1, and black here he could just play f4 closing the position, and after bishop c2, which increases the control of the d6 square, he can play moves like queen e7, and he is good to go with the g5 g4 idea. Now taking on d6 is not easy because there are some tactical threats of knight d4 and the position is completely equal. In the game, black played knight d4 directly and takes, and he took with pawn. So this is a little bit strange decision. He could have taken with the bishop and his structure would be quite intact. Fine, e into d4, bishop c2, black took on e4, bishop into e4, and black played queen e8. Now the idea is of course to attack the a4 weakness, but black could have done that with the move bishop d7, and likely continuation would be to take on c5, d into c5, which improves black structure, and after queen into b7, rook into a4, and the position is quite equal. Now c4 is hanging, and like there are less pieces on the board, and it's not clear like how white is going to win this position because black remains quite solid. The d4 pawn is protected, passed pawn, and black has his pieces around his king, so there is no way white can create any attack. But queen e8, now of course black wants to win that a4 pawn, but in that process his queen is going away from the king side. So game continued, bishop b2. Of course white doesn't want to now take on c5 as it will improve black structure. So he just played bishop b2, queen into a4, and we are playing queen d3. Now d4 pawn is hanging, and after that when it falls, the d6 is also going to fall. So white can become a pawn up. So there was no way to save the d4 pawn. Black went back, rook fe1, queen f7, bishop into d4 check, takes, and white won the pawn on d6. Now white is a pawn up, but it's still difficult to convert this position into a full point. So let's see with its technique. Rook c5, bishop d3, king g7. So activation of king is very important in the endgame, and both sides are doing that. Rook f6, rook e7 check, takes, and rook b6. This was nice move. It is tying the c8 bishop to the defense of the b7 pawn. Black plays rook c7 so that the bishop can move freely. White plays king f2, bishop d7, king e3, and black improved his bishop's placement. h4, king f6, and bishop e4. This is nice move, trying to exchange of the bishops. And after g5, this is also very important, Vidit played h5. Now of course the taking on g5 is not that great, but after h5 the pawn on h7 is a fixed weakness. So game continued with king e5, bishop into c6, pawn into c6, rook a6, c5, rook a5, king f5, g4 check, king e5, and rook a8, rook e7, and rook d8. The idea is to play rook d5 check and win the c5 pawn. King f6, it is check to our king, but white simply moves away his king, and after rook e1, rook f8, black resigned, as any move black will play, rook f5 is coming and both the pawns are hanging, and this is completely winning position for white. So the game was quite long and Vidit managed to win this game. So I hope you liked my analysis and explanation. Thanks for watching.